I got some of the best setups and best rigs for fluke fishing that anyone has ever used. Actually, that's just clickbait. There's too many variables for there to be one single great setup or one single great rig. Too much going on, but I'm going to simplify it for you. I'm going to go over all your options, and then when you're on the water, maybe you can make the choice. So follow me along, take a few minutes, and let's go for the ride. Okay, fluke fishing 101. Let's talk about rods. Well, there are just so many variables. If you're fishing in the bay in skinny water, you want a really, really light setup. That's a great location for a spinning setup to be utilized. Why? Because the line comes off of a spinning reel much easier than a bait caster or conventional rod. So you can work the lighter jigs and the lighter weight easier. Now, when you're fishing in deeper water, you may want to go with a conventional. Why? Because you may need to scope out a little bit. You may need to let out a little line, and that's difficult on a spinning rod. And you don't need the line to get down really that quick because you're using a heavier weight to hold the bottom. So you could use a bait caster or a conventional in that situation. So just right there, we're talking two different setups. But let's focus on the rigs. Okay, we're going to go from skinny water to deep water. We're going to talk about currents, time of year. We'll even touch on colors and scent. So where do we start? Well, let's start in April and May, going into June, where those fluke come in and they start to go in the channels. Well, what are we looking to use there? I love going light. Light is the way to go. If you could fish light, you will get more fish. So I would like to use my 4,000 or even my 3,000 spinning setup and go with something as simple as a single jig like this with a piece of 4-inch gulp. This happens to be 6-inch gulp, but 4-inch gulp. If I know that they're feeding on the grass shrimp, which they commonly do at the beginning of the season like that, and they get it out of the wash, I'll go with a very simple jig like this and go with a gulp shrimp. Or I think they have some called deadly shrimps, but I use the gulp shrimp. As long as it's a shrimp, I'm not overly concerned about scent at that moment in time. I'm more concerned about it looking like a shrimp. And I like this little light jig head because I'm going to be fishing in the shallows. I'm going to be flipping it out and casting it using my small spinning setup. And I'm going to be working it back by popping it back to me. I'm going to look for the marsh drains. That's when you're driving in the channels and you see the drains, the tracks in the marshes. You know, that's where those shrimp and crabs and all the little bait fish will come out of as the tide goes out. I like to fish there into the deeper water. So right there, now we're talking tide. Yes, when I'm looking to fish in the back bay, I like an outgoing tide. Why? It pulls the bait out into the deeper water where those fluke will be. So that's one setup right there that you can use. Now, let's say we're moving into that July, the water's starting to warm up now. The fish are now near the bridges. They're kind of up for the front of the bay area. Let's say Loop Parkway, if we're talking about Nassau County, or Robert Moses Bridge, the lighthouse over Fire Island, Kismet, that water, West Fire Island Channel, that water is kind of deep, okay? But come July, that water starts to warm up. So what's working there? Well, I would switch over to a single, squid jig. So what is this squid jig? Very simple. And I love it for a lot of different applications, and I'm going to explain to you why. We have these on our website, by the way, if you're interested. We call them the ultimate fluke jig. What's really nice about this jig is that it's just one simple hoochie skirt. That's it. One little squid right there. We make it in glow. We like it. It works for us, so we use it that way. Now, what will we put on this? Well, I like using gold. I also like to use Fluke Belly. M&M Fluke Bellies makes a great product. We utilize their Fluke Bellies. We also like to go with maybe a spearing on there. Depending on the clarity of the water, it depends on the movement. So we'll pick and choose, and we'll bring a bunch of different stuff with us. And if we're running a charter, we'll put one person on gulp, another person on fluke belly, another person on spearing. And we will fish this. What's nice about this rig is that you put your weight here, okay, on the bottom. If you notice, this rig is set low. It's not set high, and obviously there's only one hoochie skirt. Now, an old-time fisherman who I highly respect that has caught more fish than I've probably seen in an aquarium, he believes in just fishing the one. And when I asked him why, he said because he's never caught a double header fluke before. So why do you need two hooks? The second hook can only get tangled up on something. He also likes the fact that this is set low. And as they get a little lazy and they're not really aggressively feeding, although fluke will come up off the bottom, and we've seen it, right? They would prefer to hit something closer to the bottom. Remember, most fish want an easy meal. They want the drive-through for McDonald's. They don't want to be chasing stuff that's going to take up a lot of energy. The fluke sits in the sand or in the debris, and this comes right along, and it's just, 6 to 8 inches off of the bottom, and he could just come up and hit it. Done. Perfect. So in those conditions, we like using a single squid. Now, what else could be used? Believe it or not, if you're fishing a sandy bottom like we do on the South Shore, jigging for fluke. Now, you're not going to get quantity, but you will get quality on a jig. You'll be surprised, but you'll get a pretty big fish on the jig. And how do we work these? Well, this is actually a slow pitch jig with a flat bottom, and we like to use this particular style. It comes in different weights, and again, they're on our website, and they come rigged or unrigged, so you can set it up the way works best for you in your conditions. And we drop it down, and we actually feed the line back as we're drifting, and then we will lock it up, and we will pop it off the bottom as we drift. Pop it off the bottom. And then we'll free spool a little bit back to the fish, or basically stop it because the boat's moving. We're free spooling, so this will stop now. And then again, pull and bump it off the bottom. I tell you what, it's a blast. And you don't really know what you're going to get, because you might get that doormat fluke, or you might get a blue pick it up. You might get a striper pick it up. You might get a sea bass pick it up. You might get the almighty sea robin pick it up. But it's a fun way. Is it the best application if you're going to go, like if you're looking to get a whole bunch of bites? Probably not. But that one big fish sitting down there, when he sees this, he's probably going to jump on it. What's the next setup that we like to use? Well, for fishing, up towards the front area, there's not many setups, believe it or not, that are better than 2 small half-ounce jigs. One high, one low, no weight. And these are real light. What we do, we'll put a 4-inch gulp on there. We'll put, again, same thing like a fluke belly on there, or a spearing on there. Make it simple, keep it light, And we drop these down, and it's amazing on how well you'll catch these. But this is not something that you just drop and just jig up and down, up and down. This setup here, when you put it on your double dropper loops, okay, you're going to drop it down and you're going to immediately work it. Well, let me back up. What you're going to do is not drop it down. You're going to actually cast it out. Let it sink down to the bottom and then pop it back to you. Now, if the drift is moving really quick, go on the other side of the boat and cast there and let the boat come towards the lure and work the lure back to the boat as the boat's coming towards the setup. So you could do it that way as well. But the whole thing is to cover some ground with these and nice and easy, just be bouncing these. Unbelievable the results. A lot of your top fluke fishermen will utilize this. Real light. I'm talking, when you're in those conditions, like I'm fishing in the front of the bay, let's say Loop Parkway Bridge, where the water may go from 8-10 feet to 20-25 feet. I'll start off shallow, no problem, and then we work it deeper. Unbelievable the results. Now we're moving into, let's say, the ocean on top of some of the reefs and stuff like that. Well, I really like to use, when I'm in those conditions, either this single setup with, let's say, a 4, 5, 6, 8 ounce weight, okay? Or I will go with something like this that has the 2 hoochie skirts and work that. The reason why I go with a high-low here, 2 here, is because when you're in deeper water, 40, 50, 60 feet of water, and sometimes you'll have to scope out a little bit and your setup is a little bit on an angle, you'll have 2 that are actually hanging somewhat low there. So it gives an option, especially the fact that fluke are a community fish. There's usually more than one around. If you watch a lot of these videos, you'll see there's a bunch of fluke that follow bait, right? There's more than one. Now, usually only one will hit it, but there'll be several following it. So to have a group of bait fish, or in this case, little squid, moving, gives a better realistic presentation. And I like, that setup when I'm working those conditions. Now, there is another setup that I like to use when I want to show off the bait. So in this case here, I will put, let's say, a piece of fluke belly here, or a squid strip here, or spearing or so forth. And that will come out to here a little bit. If I want to show the bait off more, I think that the conditions call for a situation where you want to expose the actual bait. Then I want to go with mylar teasers, such as these here. Again, these are on our website. You could go online easy enough and grab a couple of packs. What I like about the mylar is that they're very buoyant, and they open up and they pulsate. And when they open up, it exposes that bait. So if I'm looking for a little bit more action, if I'm looking to get a little bit more attention, I may go with that mylar setup. Now, I won't know that until you start working this stuff out. Yes, experience will tell me, hey, you know what, I'm going to start with this. But if I don't get a hit with this, I'm going to switch to this. Or I might just go and switch to that. So you have to have an arsenal. That's why there is no one great rig out there for fluke. Another thing that may attract the larger fish are these big teasers. This is a teaser. It's not a bucktail. It weighs absolutely nothing, literally grams. So I like the bigger presentation. I love the feather in them. This is the Feather Pro teaser. This is something that you could put either on a single drop loop or a double drop loop and set it up. And I like to fish these in the deeper waters. I also like to fish these where I know that there are larger fish, such as Montauk or Nantucket. These are great to use. There's one other rig out there that you may not be overly familiar with, but this will separate you from the rest. There'll be many conditions, especially around the new moon or the full moon, where the currents start to pick up and start to rip, and you're drifting, 2 miles per hour, 1.8 miles per hour, and the drift is pretty quick, and you got to use a lot of weight to get down. You're fishing some of the reefs, and the current is just moving you. Well, you can't fish light, you'll get scoped out. You could fish this, but then you're going to put 8 ounces on here. And when you get 8 ounces on a rig like this, it's tough to get the action and the presentation you want. It's hard because it's 8 ounces that you're jerking and trying to jig. So not the best situation. I love a single bucktail or a single jig dropping down, but not when the current is rocking. I can't keep it down. It's floating somewhere in the middle, right? And anything that's too heavy, if I have to go with a 6 ounce or an 8 ounce bucktail, forget about it. You're not getting any action, zero. So what do we go to? We go to fluke spoons. These are them here. They come in a whole bunch of different colors. And the fluke spoon is fished on a 3-way, and that is awesome. About the fluke spoon, real simple to use. It almost takes no knowledge at all. The toughest part is getting the 3-way. You can buy them from us, or you can make them yourself. And what it basically is a 3-way swivel up in here. You're going to have a line down here with a loop for your weight. And then you're going to have a line that comes out about basically the same length as the line, the vertical line here. You're going to get a horizontal line. We make them with a speed clip where you just put a speed clip right on here. So you have your vertical line with your weight. You have your horizontal line with your spoon. The drift is moving. You should only use these spoons if the drift is moving about 1.6 miles per hour or faster. Anything slower, I'm going to show you why you don't want to use a spoon. If you got that rip going and you're moving and that current is rolling, even if you're in the back bay, because depth doesn't matter here. It's all about the current. If you're moving, this fluke spoon is meant to swim in the water. It's specially designed and engineered to actually stay up in the water column on that drift. When it moves, it's going to swim like this. And it's going to be about 12 to 18 inches off the seabed. On the hook here, we make ours on a speed clip hook. A speed clip we put the hook on. They come with a 6.0, but if you want to use a smaller or larger hook, depending on where you're fishing, you can just pop it off the speed clip and switch your hooks out. If the hook gets bent or dirty or rusty, again, you can just switch out the hook. You don't have to throw out the whole rig. It's kind of a cool little feature. Same thing with the entire squid assembly here. It's on a split ring, so you could always take the hoochie skirt assembly off. We sell assemblies. You can make your own assembly and just put it on. The key here is to keep this light. This is a very light alloy. You don't want to put a big chunk of bait on here. All you want to do is put a single piece of spearing or a single piece of fluke belly on here. That's it. Or maybe like a single piece of squid strip, something like that. Nothing too heavy, because the whole idea is that when you're drifting, you want to keep it up in the water column. So now you can fish the faster currents with the perfect presentation and get plenty of action. And these here, you're generally going to dead stick them. You're not going to be jigging up and down, because as you pull up, this goes down. Because you're pulling the weight up, this goes down. We don't want that. We want to basically be dragging that weight, just touching it once in a while to make sure we're on the bottom. We have enough weight to hold it as this swims. The weight's not a factor. You could put 14 pounds on that because this swings independent of this. So you want to make sure you have enough weight down here where you're on the bottom, you're holding the bottom no matter what the current is, and let the spoon do the work for you. There's one other little technique I didn't mention, but I think it's important because it does work in certain applications. Again, going back to kind of the skinny water. I like on occasion when it's real still, I'm almost like in a slack tide situation and I don't have much current, I go as light as I can. And I like to snap jig a skirted single ball jig. And what I'll do on that is I'll go back to my spinning setup and I got a really slow tide. Maybe I don't have any tide. I just have the wind blowing me across. Go down, snap it, pull it hard, feed it back, drag it, snap it fast, drop it, drag it. You're usually going to get that hit on the drop or the drag. The snap and the quick action is just to get their attention. And then they usually hit it when it goes back down and you start to drag. This is Captain V. I'm talking fluke. If you like the content, hit the subscribe button, sign up, follow me. I'm putting out videos every day for you. Captain V, let's get fishing.